What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is a Steelers game day, and with that, I am bringing yet another breakdown of the matchup, and so let's dive right into it. So yeah, it's another big one. It's the second straight AFC North matchup for the Steelers. This one is going to be on the road. It's a short week, and they've already traveled to Cincinnati to take on the 2-4 Bengals. Pittsburgh comes into the matchup at 4-1, and honestly, with a huge opportunity to assert their dominance onto this division. Moving to 5-1 as they approach the midway mark of the regular season would be huge. They'd have a handful of games in hand over teams like the Ravens, Browns, and Bengals, and so it's another big one. Every divisional game's big, but it's time to really keep stacking. And so let's dive right into it. We've got honestly some great weather tonight. 62 degrees, overcast, and no rain is expected in Cincy. In terms of how this matchup played out last year, the two sides split the season series, going 1-1. The Steelers won the first one with Russell Wilson having a monster game. If you guys can remember, they won 44-38, and the moon ball was working. Honestly, it was probably their best offensive showing throughout all of 2024, and that's more of a spotlight on the Cincy defense, I think, compared to the Pittsburgh offense, because we saw that offense struggle most of last year, and the common theme once again is the Bengals defense is just flat out horrible. They rank pretty low in almost every single metric, and I'll dive into the details of that later on in this video. But yeah, it was a fun series last year. Joe Burrow and company ended up getting that final game of the regular season last year in Week 18 to close up the year to try and give themselves some playoff hopes, but ultimately they ended up not making it. But they ended up winning 19-17. Last week, the Bengals lost to Green Bay. Josh Jacobs had a big day with 2 touchdowns. Flacco made his debut. They traded for him last week after Jake Browning was so poor. 6 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So a change was needed for them. In terms of what he does, what he brings to the table, veteran, more anticipatory throws compared to Browning. He understands all defenses. I mean, he's been in so many different offenses at this point, so a late switch or a changing of teams is not really going to affect him as much as it would someone else. He's done it before. And the other thing is he's going to limit turnovers. So he's going to give the Bengals a lot more chances to win just by limiting the turnovers. He's better in the quick game, and so the Steelers could have their hands full. They saw him last year in that Colts game after Richardson got hurt, and he had 219 yards. Or no, sorry, he had 168 yards and 2 touchdowns with no turnovers in that game against the Colts. Pittman and Downs had nearly all of his production. Jonathan Taylor also ran well, so it's a different offense in Indy, but Flacco's really familiar with Pittsburgh, and if you guys saw what Mike Tomlin said earlier this week, he was not a fan of the Cleveland Browns trading their day one starter to a divisional opponent. Pretty hilarious comment from Mike Tomlin, but moving on to what Pittsburgh did last week, they beat Cleveland pretty soundly, in my opinion. They controlled a lot of the game. The run game stood out. Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson even had a couple good runs. Kenneth Gainwell got some burn. DK Metcalf had 95 yards and a touchdown. I mean, the offense was moving pretty well against a strong defense last week. And so the theory is if you can do that against Cleveland, especially how well they were able to run the ball, I believe they ripped 5 run plays of 10 yards or more. And heading into that game, Cleveland only allowed 6 throughout their first 5 games of the year. So this run game is starting to find something. And it starts with Darnell Washington. In the past 2 games, he's played about 90% of the... Well, it doesn't start with him, but he's been a big component of it. In the past 2 games, he's played about 90% of the snaps. Spencer Anderson getting in as a 6-0 line. He's playing about 25% of the snaps now. And so Arthur Smith, they're really embracing in this jumbo set. Multiple tight ends, six offensive linemen pound the rock, smash mouth football with Aaron Rodgers, limiting the turnovers and really playing excellent in the quick game. Before we get into more details of the matchup, I meant to go over the injury report for both sides. Starting with Pittsburgh, Calvin Austin's going to be out for the second straight game with that shoulder injury. But with this mini bye, he could have a chance for next week. Deshaun Elliott is questionable due to personal reasons. He didn't travel with the team last night, I believe, so I'm not sure what to expect with that. Hope all is well with him. While he was out for the games 2 and 3, I believe, or whatever it was noticeable. And so getting him back 2 weeks ago was great. If he's not going to be able to suit up tonight, it's going to be a pretty significant loss. Would expect Jabril Peppers and Juan Thornhill to man that role a little bit more, and even Jalen Ramsey. He could step back into that safety role a little bit more. Miles Killebrew is out. One of the best special teams players on this team suffered a significant knee injury last week. That field is probably what is to blame for that one. A lot of the players and coaches were really upset about that. There's been a lot of talk about why does the college team still play on Acrisure Stadium, and it's just unfortunate for Miles Killebrew. He's a loved player. He's a captain, and so really hoping he can get back for next season. Malik Harrison is still on the designated or injured reserve list, whatever you want to call it. He's questionable for tonight. He seems to be getting closer. On the other side for the Bengals, they've got their standout pass rusher, Trey Hendrickson, is questionable. He has not practiced this week, so he's probably a true game time decision tonight. Without him, their D-line doesn't get too much pressure outside of Hendrickson. I mean, since 2020, Hendrickson is like third in sacks, only behind Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. He's had 17.5 in each of the last 2 seasons. So just a premier pass rusher that they could be without. Their tight end room is pretty banged up, but they've got Noah Fant as their tight end 1 now. Mike Gesicki is out. Tanner Hudson has a concussion, so 2 of their tight ends are out, but doesn't really. Noah Fant is pretty solid himself. Their offensive line is also pretty banged up, but most of them are expected to play. Lucas Patrick, their offensive guard, with a calf injury, was a full participant. He's questionable. Their tackle, Amarius Mims, was a full participant yesterday. He's listed on the injury report with no game status, so he should also play. Another offensive lineman, Dylan Fairchild, was a full participant with a knee injury, though. Charlie Jones, their wideout, is questionable with a rib injury. He was limited yesterday. And lastly, BJ Hill was on the injury report, but he is expected to play. It was just listed as rest. And so that is the injury report. Diving into the specifics of this Bengals offense. Now, we've seen most of the season was with Jake Browning and Joe Burrow for just the very early stages of the year. But now it's a new look with Joe Flacco. He went 29 of 45 with 219 yards and 2 touchdowns last week against Green Bay. He was only sacked once. In terms of what he brings, I know I touched on it a little bit already, but he's a big quarterback, 6'5". Just like I said, he's seen every defense. It's going to be a lot harder to fool him. He's going to limit the turnovers, and the biggest thing is really just the anticipatory throws. Like, there's a couple plays last week where he's throwing it to Jamar Chase before he's breaking out of his route, and I just don't think they were getting any of that with Jake Browning. He's calm in the pocket. He's going to know if he's hot. If there's going to be pressure on his way, he's going to be able to deliver it or distribute it quickly. So, yeah, the Steelers and Mike Tomlin know all about Joe Flacco, and it definitely changes up the game plan and changes up how they're going to attack him, because I can tell you they're probably not going to attack with the same aggression they did last week against Dylan Gabriel. At least I'd be pretty surprised. This offensive line isn't strong that they'll be facing tonight. They're ranked the worst run blocking team in the league, in terms of PFF for their composite run blocking score, which basically just is the average of each offensive lineman's win rate put together. They give up a lot of pressure. They have a sack percentage that ranks 23rd, so 7% of their dropbacks they're getting sacked. EPA per play, they're 31st. Success percentage, 30th. Passing wise and rushing wise, they're bottom 10. So it's just not a strong unit at all. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are the strength of their team. And so Joey Porter, Darius Slay, Jalen Ramsey, the Steelers secondary, they're going to have to show up tonight. Interested to see who gets who. Last year, T. Higgins drew 4 offensive PIs or defensive PIs against Joey Porter Jr. And so he got the better of that matchup in that game. Very excited to see what Porter Jr. can do in the rematch. Jamar Chase has 42 catches on the year, and the next closest is Chase Brown, the running back, with 20. Higgins is right there with 18, and Fant has 16, but it's an offense dominated by Jamar Chase. If you can shut him down, the rest of the crew aren't really dangerous after the catch, at least. T. Higgins is great at the catch point and deep down the field. Chase Brown out the backfield is a great check down option. He can break some tackles, has some wiggle to him. But as a rusher, he hasn't offered too much. He's only got 202 rushing yards through 6 games. And for a rush defense in Pittsburgh that has been clicking on all cylinders the past 3 weeks, it's a pretty good matchup. He's got Chase Brown's averaging only 2.7 yards per carry. They've got another running back, Samaje Perine, who is a bit better as a pass blocker, so maybe we'll see him more if things are not going well in terms of their pass blocking, if they need to get an extra guy in there, if the Steelers are bringing extra blitzers in and they need Perine to stonewall someone, that could be a look for them. But yeah, Flacco's just going to have to be perfect for them to have a chance against this defense with the way they've been bringing aggression and just the way how physical they've been. This defense has been really fun to watch. For the Bengals defense, just a little bit more insight on them. They are ranked at the bottom of nearly every single metric, and this team is bottom 5 in the league, just top to bottom without Joe Burrow. And so let's just get that out the way. The Steelers need to go win this game pretty handedly, but at least go win this game. Everyone knows about Trey Hendrickson. He's arguably their best player, but DJ Turner has also been excellent this season, one of their corners. He's got the most pass breakups in the NFL. He's got the 6th best coverage EPA and the 4th best completion percentage allowed. So maybe we'll see him travel against DK. You never know. So they've got a standout corner. Joseph Osai is a threat on their defensive line. But again, if Trey Hendrickson's out, I mean, it really allows the Steelers' offensive line to not have to focus on one guy. And he's really a one-man wrecking crew on that defensive line. They don't really have another elite threat, that is, I'd say. They've got TJ Slayton, who's a pretty good run defender. Jordan Battle's a good strong safety. Dax Hill's their nickel corner. Demetrius Knight leads their team in tackles, but just none of these names are real standouts outside of a couple. Logan Wilson's a pretty solid linebacker. He's not the fastest, but he's got a high IQ. He knows where to plug himself, at least from my viewpoint. But yeah, it's a defense that's given up points to everyone. And this Steelers offense, I really want to see the rushing numbers tick up tonight. Jalen Warren's had a great year when it comes to breaking tackles, having a good success rate, at least better than what his offensive line is giving him. But tonight's a night where he should be able to get close to 100 rushing yards. Kenneth Gainwell did it against the Vikings. Let's see if Jalen Warren can do it against the Bengals. They've got in terms of numbers for the Steelers offense, they've been slowly ticking up each week. EPA per play, they're 15th. Success percentage, they're 21st. EPA for passing, they're 12th. For the rushing numbers, they're 22nd. Sack percentage, they're giving up only the 17th most sacks on dropbacks. And Rodgers has been limiting the turnovers for the most part. But yeah, it's going to be a interesting game. I know there's been a lot of discourse about Mike Tomlin's record on Thursday Night Football. I believe it's something like 0-6 on the road. 2-8 is another certain stat that I don't even know. But yeah, some bad numbers on Thursday Night Football with Mike Tomlin in charge of the Steelers. But this is one where they're easily the favorite, even though they're on the road. And as long as they play like the way they have been the past 2 or 3 games, I don't see a reason for them to lose. I mean, like I said, Flacco would have to play like prime Flacco to give themselves a chance, but I just don't see it. But yeah, that's going to conclude this video. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you for the recap after tonight's hopefully victory.